Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. Today, really been looking forward to this. This is a nice, laid back, enlightening conversation. Just what the doctor ordered. Anyway, we welcome back Jennifer Jurkofsky. You guys will remember her. She was on talking about Lyrians on the Outer Realm. And today she's coming on to talk about her book, Spheres of Consciousness, a new map for awakening the modern mystic within. Sounds such a nice, whimsical title. Anyway, it's a transformative guidebook, which you guys might find really interesting. I did put the link in Amazon if you guys want to purchase it. And I've read it, highly recommended. Anyway, it's a guidebook and reflective journal for spiritual seekers, energy healers, modern mystics who are ready to step into conscious living and soul alignment. And everything I've read, I think even if you are, very much living the lifestyle, I think you learn a lot more about yourselves because just because you think you got it together, yeah, you realize you really don't. So it's always good to hear new ideas and sort of get into somebody else's uh perspective because it was very, very refreshing to read. So anyway, I see people lining up in chat. Hey, Hillbilly Herb. I love that handle. Kira, Wayne, hello. So anyway, we are not just streaming on our own platforms today, but Jennifer's got her Facebook and her YouTube. So welcome if anybody pops in. Going to be a lot of fun, going to be very laid back. And without further ado, Jennifer, how are you?
Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me back. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh my gosh, me too. We had a great time when you were on before, and it was just so well received. And you can never go wrong with consciousness. Honestly, it's something that it's something. First off, I think people are awakening up more and more to. And you can chime in on that if you'd like, but it's something I think people are wanting answers to. I think this is the right time because people are very receptive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're coming to a place now too, where really understanding what our consciousness is and how we relate to it, how we define it for ourselves, all of those things are becoming integral in how we navigate our day-to-day lives.
Big time. Big time. Sometimes without even realizing, but what I liked about your book, it's just this lesson in awareness, awakening, evolution, and a journey of looking inward. So you're kind of going from solo to unifying the whole we are one thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The book actually came about. I teach a spiritual class, and the program, one of the students was talking about how we have this idea in the spiritual community that we have to transcend the denser energies, right? Frequencies are taught that some of those denser energies are not good, and that if we're in those energies, that we're not properly on our spiritual journey.
Right.
And so the question was asked because we do feel the dense energies. We're going to feel sadness. We're going to feel anger. We're going to feel frustration. We're going to feel these things. And that doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that we've somehow slid down the ladder. And so the book came about as a means of helping us reframe what it is to hold all of the frequencies within us, more as a harmonic orchestra than as, these frequencies are bad and these frequencies are good. It really allows for the evolution of that understanding.
That's deep. I do have to say, sorry, we've got some people are having a bit of a problem on YouTube. It's coming up vertical from what I'm seeing. And I have no explanation that aside from the fact that it could be a YouTube thing, because we're definitely not on Beautiful mode. Hmm. I don't know. See if there's a second link. Go onto your Facebook and see if there's a second link. I don't know. Um, anyway, this is the book, and, I wanna put it up there while chit-chatting. Um, so making we the whole we are one, and unifying, it's hard. People we've been so conditioned to be divided
Mm,
for so long. It's hard to get ourselves into that mode of live, love everybody, right?
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
y'all find on Jen's channel, might have to go over there. I don't know what's going on. Sorry,
I
guys.
don't have the option for the narrow, so I don't.
Yeah. You know what, guys? Go over on United Public Radio, the UFO Paranormal Radio. Go on the network channel because this seems to be okay. Otherwise, I don't know.
Mhm.
So, what made you decide to want to write about this specifically?
Well, I think the class was kind of the catalyst for it. But then as the information was coming through, it's actually kind of similar to the Lyran Legacy, as I was told, it's time, you have to write this down. This can't
Yeah.
just be a moment of understanding for the class. This needs to be something that is given to the world.
Yes.
And as I said before, I kind of do what I'm told.
You learn.
And yeah, but I also I'm going about it. My background, I'm, by day, a registered psychotherapist,
Right.
and I work in this a lot with clients in terms of how do we navigate the dense emotions? How do we allow ourselves to have that experiential acceptance, to get the messages that they're there for, and to be okay sitting in the difficult energy of that. And Spheres of
Yeah.
Consciousness is a beautiful model to help unfold that process.
Yes. Well, like I said, it's a guidebook, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I mean, this is stuff that's being told to you, and obviously, I mean, because you're pretty much exhibit a lot of this just in our conversation. So, is this something that they initially said, okay, Jennifer, is this as a do as just as I'm told, or is this a practice as I preach kind of thing?
A very much practice what I preach kind of thing.
Right, right, right.
No,
Yeah.
this has been, I mean, for me, it's been a lifelong unfolding in that,
Mhm.
I've gone through really, really difficult experiences in my life. And, I even have it on my website, that idea of connecting with Nguyen's idea of the wounded healer, how
Mm.
we go through our own healing process. And then through that, through our own shadow work, we get to bring our genius forward.
Yeah.
Right? Experiences open us to other understanding that then we get the opportunity to expand on by
Mhm.
sharing. Because I
Yes.
do believe that every time I share something, I learn something at the same
Yes. It's nice when it works out that way. It is. It's nice. I like the perspective that you use where you're not climbing a ladder because
Mhm.
that can be just the thought of it, I mean, how hard you have to go can be very tedious. It just seemed like a lot of work. I like that you use spheres.
Yeah, this was probably the biggest transition or change that the message of the book is bringing forward, because you know, one of the things that kept coming up in conversations and all of that was um, that we were, in this, like, okay, if I'm feeling sadness, I'm in this frequency. Whereas if I'm feeling joy, I'm in this frequency. And this frequency is good and this frequency is bad. So, I'm climbing up, right? In the highest one, getting into love and gratitude and all of that. Whereas if I, somehow find myself back in sadness, what's wrong with me. This became the narrative. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I back down here?
Yes.
Whereas the sphere model recognizes that when we're sitting alone in the density, it feels like that's all there is. But as we expand out into the other spheres, we realize that I still have the density, but I
Right.
also have all of this expansiveness that I can meet the density with,
Like
right?
bonus space.
Yeah, exactly. And then as we have this ability to step into the expansiveness, the sphere kind of becomes that toroid, right? So we know that that toroidal energy of going back into the density and then expanding back out allows for us to sit with sadness and also have joy, to sit with anger and also have gratitude, right? It
Yeah.
allows for us to have these things together as opposed to isolating them and identifying some as good and some as bad.
Yeah. That's yeah. That's probably the best way you can look at it. It's hard. Again, I have to say it's very hard to separate all of that. Now, this is something that goes on. This isn't just like current times. I mean, the mystery of consciousness, and you write about, Freud's model, and you talk about the Eastern philosophy. And so how far back do you feel this is something? How far back does this go? This connection, this understanding of consciousness and different levels and dimensions and so on.
I think we've probably been trying to figure it out from the moment we gained consciousness. Janice, thanks for sharing.
Yes.
Um, but
Yeah.
it's interesting, because you ask that, and then kind of going back to our conversation previously with the Lyran Legacy,
Mhm.
when we first incarnated, if you will, I think we still understood it on a very deep level. And I
Mhm.
think over time, it faded. And then we've had to
Yes.
rebuild our understanding of it.
And that's even if you can remember it. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
coming here, how much do we forget? I mean, I think initially it's interesting because I think children come here knowing so much
Mhm.
because they're wide open, and then life sets in and you realize, I don't remember a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I could barely remember my dreams, let alone try to remember everything that came in. So do you feel that this is something that is instinctive? It just kicks in at some point because we we have a lot of odds stacked against us with synthetic frequencies and so on, man-made, that kind of thing. And I think maybe people just don't want us awake.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that there's a lot of truth in what you say.
Mm.
And, we do it's funny you say about children. I remember my eldest, very, very young, telling me, "I miss flying, mom, and why can't I do that anymore?"
I wanna fly.
So there are those memories, and I used to joke, it's of course not the first book at this point, but I used to say one of the first books I'm gonna write is all the things I have to unlearn since I've been born.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. The conditioning.
Mhm.
So how does huh, I mean, how does one try to navigate out of the conditioning to find your way to the consciousness and to enlightenment, that form of evolution? Like, let's go through the steps of the spheres that you have. Like, walk us through. This is where we're going to start, and
Mhm.
this is how it progresses, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that the book is set up starts with just bringing in awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that our very first opening to anything is, can I be aware? Even of the deep remembering. Can I
Yeah.
be aware of it?
Mhm.
Um, and so the more that we can bring awareness into our experience, the more we can shift it. But if I'm not even aware of the conditioning that I have,
Mhm.
what am I going to do about it?
That's
Right?
yeah.
So the first step in the book is looking at, am I aware of my relationship with the dense emotions? And
Mhm.
this can be heavy, right? I say, like, the book starts deep, like, it brings you right in
Yes.
right away.
Dense emotions, like, explain what dense emotions are before we get through that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I categorize the what I've basically done in the book, just as a means of helping everybody understand, is I've gone through based on the emotional frequencies and broke them down into the core spheres, the mid spheres, the outer spheres, and beyond the sphere. And so
Mhm.
I took each of them. So when I talk about the dense, it's the heavy energy, the contracted energy. So this is shame and guilt and fear, our survival instincts, the things that keep us um, feeling caged or feeling trapped, right? Those are the ones that are the denser energies. And so we
Mhm.
look at those and we look at our relationship with them. And oh, thanks, Tannis. And one of the things that I have even said to people who have reached out about it is, if that's hard, it's okay, come back to it. Right? It's hard
Yeah,
for us to sit with the really heavy feelings that we
yeah.
carry. And when we're on the spiritual journey, I think that sometimes this is where spiritual bypassing and stuff can come in, where it's like, no, no, it's all okay. I'm not going to, it's fine. It's going to be okay. It's
Meanwhile, you're in the fetal position on the floor going, "I'm facing my demons." Right? Tough
exactly.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas the deeper shadow work is going, wow, okay, this thing just happened and I feel angry. I feel frustrated at what's happening. There's a part of me that's really sad.
Mhm.
And that doesn't negate the fact that I also have, joy about other things. But in this moment with this thing, these are the feelings that I'm experiencing. Can I let myself sit with them to get the message?
Mhm.
Right? To understand what they're there to tell me. And then from there, I can bring in gratitude. I can bring in joy, right? I think one of the biggest kind of transformative moments for me was being in a place where I was so destroyed, right? Something was happening in my life and the deep wailing, ugly cries that we can have,
Yeah.
letting myself have the experience and letting myself um, sit in the density of it, I was able to then bring in love. I was able to bring in gratitude for the unfolding and the releasing of it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and to what Tanis had just said about that liberation that comes with understanding that we can hold multiple emotions at the same time, because when we're in that space where we're expansive, the the sadness isn't overwhelming, even when it is debilitating.
Yes. Yeah, because it is very heavy 'cause you're going through, first off, it's that fight or flight thing.
Mhm.
When you're facing certain feelings, I think guilt and shame seem to be harder to overcome, let's say, than fear, or even conditioning, because we put so much on ourselves as people, especially if you're someone of faith, because you have that sort of thing running in the background, and a lot of times, and I've just seen this in spirits who have been left behind wandering just in fear of, I think I'm gonna take my chances and stay here instead of see where I end up. And you realize, no, no, this is not quite how it works. So, but that's what we're conditioned to believe.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the more that we hold those, the guilt, the shame, yeah,
Yeah.
they are pretty dang powerful, familiar
Exactly.
to, um,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
but they're powerful because the mind gives them narrative. It gives them story,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then we hide from the story because we don't like it. But if I could look at that and say I have, guilt for something that happened, that I wish I had done better, or I wish I had done it differently, then I'm able to notice the narrative
Mhm.
as it shows up for me.
Yes.
And if I can become aware, the observer in that moment,
Mhm.
I can go, okay, this emotion is here as a messenger just to tell me that I'm not okay with the way that this went down.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But it can help shift us from beating ourselves up about it, because in the moment that we recognize that it's the messenger,
Mm.
then we don't have to continue. And I'm saying we don't have to continue because sometimes we do, but
Mhm.
we don't have to continue the pattern of beating ourselves up for having that feeling,
Right.
right?
So
Or for
basically, you have to be outside the box looking in
mhm,
from an outside point of view and just watching things
mhm.
unfold. So you're looking in, but you need to see from, like, an external space as well.
Yeah. So this is where getting into that observer part of our consciousness, whether we want to call that our higher selves. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when we recognize that all of the things that our mind is telling us is not the absolute truth of it, we are
Mhm.
able to step into the observer role, right?
Mhm.
My mind might feel like, and my body might respond as if this feels like it's the truth, right?
Yeah. That's
But
a
just the ability to challenge that, right?
mm,
It allows for us to shift.
right. So visualization,
Hmm.
manifestation.
Yeah. This is
Right.
where there's so many really cool tools, and working in mental health, I'm familiar with them, and some of you may be as well, but like Byron Katie does the work, which is 4 questions and a turnaround, right? It's like, is it true? It's the first question. Is it true? Right?
Right.
And there might be a part of us that goes, it really feels true. Okay, cool. Question number 2. Is it absolute truth? Well, those of us on our journey know absolute truth is not what we
Yeah.
thought, right?
Yes.
So it just
Yes.
gives us a little bit of a moment to gain that separation, right? To step
Yes.
back from it and go, okay, maybe it's not absolute
Yes.
truth.
Right. So you give yourself permission to move past that, right? So
Yeah.
when it says, "I found that after so many years of people telling me that I'm stupid," etcetera, as an example, the
Mhm.
conditioning, I began to adopt those things as true, and from there, it became my inner voice until I was the only one or the only thing I could hear. So that again, yeah, the conditioning.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, and we do this to ourselves all of the time
yeah,
because, we're told something, and then a part of us takes on that narrative to keep us in line, to keep us acceptable, to keep us loved, to keep us whatever, right?
yes, yeah,
And yeah, and so it is really hard to break that conditioning.
mm,
And the work here is, okay, so I have been told my whole life I am stupid,
mhm,
right? So
mhm,
a big part of me is going to go, yeah, that really feels true because that's been my reality and my conditioning
mhm,
all the way through. Yeah, conditioning is no joke.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
so, you know, but then how do we break it? And I think part of it is that very awareness of this is my conditioning because I've been told this
mhm,
at some point in my life. And whether it was my whole life or one time and it really stuck with me, they're
yeah,
both, equally devastating to the system. So
yes,
I can say, okay, I was told this. And at one point, I chose to believe it, even if it wasn't conscious, right?
yes,
I
yes,
took it on and I owned it because owning it for whatever reason in that moment kept me safe,
mm,
right?
yeah, right, yeah,
That that's okay.
mhm,
Because when
yeah,
I realized that that was what was happening, now I can go, okay, but I don't need that safety net anymore,
Yeah.
right?
That's tough again.
Yeah.
Lose a safety net.
Right.
Trapeze.
Well, and it's not, yeah, it's
It's
that
tough.
I don't need it anymore, right? I'm not swinging from the same trapeze that I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
that was happening.
We like to be in the drama triangle, playing either victim, villain, or hero. When we step out of those roles, we can take on the observer role. Also, a
Mhm.
big one. Remove the labels,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Remove those
absolutely.
labels. Um, hmm. So as we get awareness and all the really dense
Mhm.
feelings, right? Where do we go? We go to the mid spheres. So what awaits us in the mid spheres?
We do, and so the mid spheres is that awakening to our personal power, right? This is where we find reason, where we are allowed to actually bring in anger, and have courage and willingness. And this is such an interesting piece too, because I've had this before where people go, "Wait a minute, why is anger in a mid sphere and not in the core sphere?"
Yeah, right. I'm like, pride, anger, a
Yeah,
big a
but
faux
these
pas.
are exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But these middle spheres allow us to shift, right?
Mhm.
Where instead of, being in that place of I am, I'm insignificant, or whatever the inner language is that we keep ourselves in that shame, fear, and guilt area, it allows us to go, wait a minute,
Mm,
I'm not. That's not my narrative. That was somebody else's narrative,
mm,
right? And this is where, again, I know pride is one of those things that we are very much shamed for. And I'm not saying pride in the sense of, you know, I'm, I'm the best and all of that. It's more, um, where we look at the ability to go, okay, I can recognize that I have a value or a purpose, right? And sometimes even stepping into the inflated sense of self gets
yeah,
us to just expand out a little bit,
right. So
right?
pride, but not ego.
Well, and this is it. But we go through the phases and we go, okay, let's say I do step into ego, right? It allowed me to expand out of the debilitating energy. Now, as I go into the outer cores, that's going to tame that ego, right? Again, it's that piece of I don't want to stay in any one place. I want to be expansive. I want to move to that expansiveness so that it then impacts all of the others.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think that is a big one. That's a big one, and I think people have a hard time separating,
Absolutely.
right?
But
Ego
again,
stuff. Yeah.
we get, you know, we we get scared of our shadow, right?
Yes.
All of the parts of us that do have ego, that have desire, that get angry, right? All of
Yes.
the things that are in this energy, and we go, okay, I want to step out of this, and
Yes.
um, but how do I get out of it? And sometimes part of stepping out of it is going like, I don't deserve this. This isn't okay. This
Yeah.
isn't okay that somebody's talking to me like this, and it's not okay that I'm talking to myself like this, right?
Yes.
And so then we move into those middle energies of courage and neutrality and willingness and acceptance and reason,
Yeah.
right? That's the energy that we want to step into
Yes.
when we leave the density, right?
Yes. Yes.
So like as we're climbing kind of through the core and really getting through it, we notice these dense emotions, sometimes help us to kind of break out,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
now all of a sudden, if I'm in the density and I am going, wait a minute, this isn't okay, and I'm angry about it, maybe then I can step into courage
Yeah.
to do something different, right?
Yeah. Getting over the fear of the unknown
Mhm.
and again, consent. Giving yourself that consent to say, "No,
Yeah,
I can move beyond this." Like you say, "I deserve better." But sometimes we need to give ourselves that consent, and that makes it really difficult. Change is frightening for some people,
absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. And when we're in that place of, fear, yeah, righteous anger is valid. Yeah, and how you react to it. And this is it, because when we, if we're angry and we lash out at somebody, um, you know, no, that's not okay. And yet there is the potential for growth in that.
Mm,
There's the potential in
yeah.
growth for us if we
Mhm,
can acknowledge, wait a minute, okay, why did that anger just get pulled from me? What am I feeling about this? What is it
mhm.
that I think is not okay in this moment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
that Go ahead, yeah.
yeah.
I'm just watching the board. It's just this
Yeah,
interesting
no,
thing.
it's okay. There's so
I
many
know.
wonderful comments going through. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
But this is it where, if I can look at that and go, okay, I am feeling this anger. Now, what can I meet it with? And this is what the part of the journaling in the spheres of consciousness does, is it goes, okay, I'm feeling this anger and I want to do something.
Mm,
All right, do I need courage to make a change?
mhm.
Do I need to stay neutral and see what happens? Do I need to have willingness
Yeah.
to allow something to unfold? Is there acceptance needed here, where I have to take that step back and go, okay, I'm
Mm,
going to have to let go of this, right? Is there the ability to bring reason or logic in to be able to shift what's happening inside of me? Right? These are the mid spheres that help us navigate the denser energies,
mm. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So now
Yeah,
all of a sudden I'm not just in anger. I'm in
yeah,
anger and courage, or
yeah,
anger and willingness.
yeah, yeah. Because there are some people who are just perpetually cranky. You know,
Mhm.
it's just like there's something I mean, there's just people that I've spoken to, people I've worked with over the years are just like will have a partner or a spouse or a family member or a dear friend, and they're just like always they seems like rageful. And I mean, how do you say to somebody who rages all the time, "Love and light, let me introduce you to consciousness rehabilitation." It's not gonna
Well,
go
and
over well.
this is where, I'll, and I this is with clients too. It's like, okay, so what is this rage doing for you?
Mm,
Right?
yeah,
Again, it's that ability. Can I sit with it and go, oh, I only took this on because it had a purpose,
yeah,
right? And if I
yeah,
can let myself look at that,
yeah,
then I have the ability to do something about it.
yes, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I love the whole process. Just bring it all in, but, I mean, there are some I feel you become again, it's an inner conditioning where you realize that just being or maybe it's something that's been passed down, where sometimes, people who are really super aggressive and cannot get out of that mode because it gets them what they want. They don't have to work at anything, and it gets them what they feel is getting ahead, but they're really, leaving a debris field behind them.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is where, that understanding what it does for me is so pertinent, because if I don't know, perpetually cranky.
There we go.
can
Just what
can
we're
handle
talking
you for
about.
30 minutes and then
Yeah, there we go. Lovely. See, there we go. Uh,
Mhm.
um Wayne says, yes. I found that rages, this negativity comes into being a form of self-protection. After a while, it begins to run on autopilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about triggers? That's a good one, Jennifer. How
Yeah.
about triggers?
Triggers. I know this can be triggering. Um,
Yeah.
triggers are beautiful opportunities for us to go inside.
Right.
Right? Why does this bother me? Why am I upset about it? What is going on inside of my system right now
Mhm.
that is setting me off?
Mm. Yeah. No. Examine, self-examination, triggers,
Mhm.
triggers.
I know.
Uh,
And it's so funny because triggers is so triggering.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly. That in
but
itself, yeah.
yeah, but that's the shadow work, right? That's the deep work that we can do where we go, okay, in this moment, I am triggered because somebody said something and I'm angry, or I'm feeling like I'm judgmental, right? There's something wrong with them, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And if I can go, okay, what just happened? Right? If again, it's that observer piece, taking that step back and going, what did my file room, my brain, what did it just associate that with?
Mhm.
Where did my programming just bring me?
Yeah. Right, right. Using
Yeah.
triggers and yeah, answering the question as she's typing. And that's why she's here, ladies and gentlemen. So, okay, so the outer spheres,
Yeah.
expanding into, as you say, compassion, love, unity, acceptance.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, those are part of the mid, right? All of the willingness, the courage, the neutrality,
Mhm,
um, acceptance, all of that. And then as we spend a lot of time in the book in those spheres, because what we're doing is looking at how do I bring them in with the density, right? How do I navigate that energy in a way that allows me to expand that dense center a
mhm,
little bit? And then from there, we have the ability to go into the outer spheres, the
mhm,
love, the joy, the peace, right? We're allowing ourselves to move through and go, okay, what is it that I can bring love to in this moment? Even though I'm feeling angry, I am opening myself. I'm going to bring in willingness. I'm going to bring in some courage, and I can have some joy about that.
mhm,
Maybe I've stepped into acceptance and I'm processing through that. And yeah, there's still some sadness there, but having that acceptance allows me to connect with peace.
mhm.
Right? These are the energies that we allow ourselves to expand into when we release our grip on the dense emotions.
Yes. Which then leads us to being beyond the spheres. So pure consciousness and enlightenment. How long from start to finish does it usually take one to achieve this?
This is where, it is a lifetime of journeying because, and this is why I love going into the toroidal experience, is I'm bringing all of these things. I'm stepping into some of these expansive energies, and then I'm bringing them into the density. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm expanding that density. And so it's a continual expansion of those energies
Mhm.
that I'm moving through. And there are going to be days that feel dense, and there are going to be days that feel light, and there's going to be days that feel both. And it's all okay because it's part of the journey, right? It's
Mhm.
when I get into a space that I feel alone in the density, right? That I go, okay, wait, let me see what I can do here to expand this.
Mhm.
And then being in the expansive energy and allowing myself to be there. Because that's another part that's really hard for us, right?
Just throwing it out there, Elsa. It doesn't hurt to ask. That's my motto. Never hurts to ask.
I've said this so many times. The moment that we've made it, we don't
Yes.
need to be here anymore.
Right. So chances are you're lucky if you can even scratch the surface and get to a place where you can at least be content in your world and get along with the rest of humanity. Essentially, there is no,
Yeah. Well,
you
and this
know,
is it. Like the ones that I put as the, expansive beyond the sphere is unity and grace, right?
yeah.
Can I be in those energies? And, there are times where I've been able to sit in that unity and grace.
Mm,
And been able to sit in that unity and grace even when there were, feelings of sadness.
mm,
And so I think it's such a beautiful thing when we understand that we can be there
mm,
and still be human.
right. Hmm. Sometimes it's tough to put unity and grace and human in one sentence.
I
I
know.
mean, it's a journey, right? It's a journey that some people spend their entire lives trying just to get through.
Yeah.
All the bumps in the road and the hurdles, and it's definitely you have to be passionate about it, or you have to really, really crave it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, unless you wake up after some crazy NDE and go, oh, there I am, like which can happen.
Absolutely. But
It
then we
can
get
happen.
caught up in the 3D density of stuff again anyway, right? Even having those moments sometimes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but this just happened. And so now I'm back in the density. And so
Mhm.
I can have unity consciousness. I can recognize that we are all one, but I can also be honest and accept that we're here to have an individuated experience. That's
Yes.
part of what it is to be human. So I can
Mhm,
hold both of those things, and they
mhm.
don't have to be like opposites, right?
Yes.
They can both be present. And so
Mm,
now I can recognize we are one in the greater picture of consciousness.
mhm.
And yet, this thing that you're doing right now, because you're choosing that individuated reality, is causing my individuated reality to have this kind of reaction.
So
And
for every action, there's a reaction,
right.
essentially. So,
Yeah.
you talk about I really love this ID versus awareness, this shifting, because, when you talk about emotions that are I love this, the best. Emotions are visitors, not residents. They come, they inform, and they go.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I read that and completely I was like, "Yes," right there.
And this is so important for us too, because we have the emotions come in, and then we get mad at them and we tell them to get out of here. We try to like, come on in, and then we shove them into the basement.
Right.
Like, you don't get to actually hang out.
Yeah, right.
Right? We do all kinds of things to avoid getting the messages from them because of the pain that goes along with that.
Mhm.
Whereas if I could invite them in, this is why I love Rumi's quote and put it in the book, The Guest House, because I feel that the more that we're able to invite them in and invite them in with the more expansive
Yes.
emotions and feelings. Right now, if anger shows up at my door, I can be like, okay, anger, come on in. Right. But I'm going to invite love in here too, because
Right.
I need that expansive energy to sit with this so that I can understand it and I can receive the message. Because if I don't have these, other supports, if you will, if you look at each one of these other emotions as
Yeah.
supports, if I don't
Yeah.
have that, now all of a sudden anger shows up at my door and I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't understand and I don't want to get the message because I don't feel like I have capacity to handle it.
Mhm. Sometimes it's one of those out of sight, out of mind situations. If you don't acknowledge this, it doesn't exist.
Mm,
And
Yeah, but it
that's an
does.
easy way to coast, I know. Well, it's just like, "I'm
Yeah.
not paying this bill this week. If I just ignore it,
Mhm.
it will not be a thing." It's like, "No,
Yeah,
no, the bill will remain." But it's
ab
just like anything, right?
absolutely. And
Yeah,
this is where, when I talked about it in there, like, if
yeah,
we shove everything into the basement, it's
yeah.
still in the house.
It's still in the house. Yeah. Yeah, it's like everyone wants to try to hide Uncle Fester. No, no, this just doesn't work.
Mhm.
Are there counteractive positive triggers for joy and calm?
Absolutely. If I'm understanding the question, the
Yeah.
positive,
Or
positive
yeah,
triggers.
no counteractive positive triggers for joy and calm.
Oh, um, okay, maybe I'm not understanding. When I think counteractive, I mean, like, to go against
Right.
positive triggers.
So no counteractive, right,
Um,
is
yeah,
what
I
she's saying.
mean, we have triggers that take us in many different directions,
Yeah.
and so, you know, this is where, finding what does bring us joy, what does help us to feel love is so important in our journey.
Mhm.
Because then, if I am dealing with something that, has caused sadness or anger or frustration,
Mm.
yes, eventually the basement does get overfilled. And that's when I have to be able to trigger some of these more expansive feelings of
Mm.
love and joy and hope and gratitude. Because when I can bring these energies forward, I can allow myself to fully experience the sadness or the dense emotion that's, knocking on the basement door going, "I'm still here."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But I can do it in a way that means that once I've gotten the message and I've allowed myself to sit with it, I can then open the door and go, "Thanks so much. I'll see you next time." I don't have to
Yes.
keep it in me, keep it in the basement or wherever it is I'm storing it, right?
Mhm.
I can let it flow through and then release it.
Yeah, right, very that's important. So so we're getting into let's talk about frequencies because wow, we can segue into that from here because I do believe it's a vibrational thing as well.
Mhm.
Our moods set our vibe, right? Or sometimes vice versa, but the idea is that they work very hand in hand, and you do talk about the importance of understanding frequencies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is where I think the biggest kind of difference is in the way that it is brought up in the book than to how we've been taught.
Mm,
Because we are always taught, well, always, we have been in the last little while taught
yeah,
that if we are, say, sad, we're in a
mm,
low frequency.
right,
And that low frequency is bringing down our vibration, and then we are attracting things that are low vibe into our
mm,
experience.
mhm,
But sadness is always going to live in us,
mm,
as much as joy is always going to live in us. They're all
mhm,
there, right? And they get activated as messengers when something needs to be brought forward.
mhm,
So just because we feel that feeling doesn't mean that we're suddenly in a low vibrational state. If I allow myself to just stay in the density and I'm
mhm,
not expanding that, now all I feel and
right,
all I experience is that low vibrational state.
mhm,
But if I can sit with that sadness and I've been able to bring in love,
mhm,
now all of a sudden I have a harmony playing within me. These frequencies are playing together. One isn't, I'm not just in the density. I have the ability to also be in the love,
yes,
right?
mm,
So now I can get the message of what they are there for.
mhm,
It doesn't mean that I've suddenly gone into a low vibrational state.
right. It just means you have to A again, I think a lot of it is here because the vibration of love is completely almost overwhelming. in some states. And we also have to look at the fact that frequencies, I mean, as much as they can bring you down, they can heal you. They can physically heal you. They can bring you out of so many, slumps. I mean, I don't think people use frequency the way they can. And again, I have to go back to the world of synthetic frequencies, So our antennas are jammed up with
Yeah.
with these artificial,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, man-made frequencies for whatever reason. I mean, we live in a world of technology, so therefore technology comes at a price. And it says our own inner antennas are like, okay, we're trying to connect to source.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to connect to something higher. But when you have a world surrounded by satellites and everything else, because we are a society that thrives on technology, then how do we get around that? How do we literally work around all of that? Go back to basics. How?
Well, and this is it. If we go back to the basics, that all is one, then what is higher
Yeah.
is also right here.
Yeah.
Right? Which means that I don't have to get through necessarily all of the, 5G and whatever else is
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to get through, the peeling the layers of the onion,
Yes.
right? And this is the integration part of spheres of consciousness. If this is the toroid, because now when I allow myself to bring that energy back in, I get to break up the density. And now there's something even below that, and that's the core.
Yeah.
That core energy that has been so overwhelmed by the density, in that expansiveness, bringing that inward, it breaks it up. So I've been able to now contact that core. And that core is what is also connected to the divine, right? It is that essence of me. And I now have it in the midst of all of the things. It's the eye of the storm. It is that part of me that truly can have that grounding, that peace, that ability to be and just be with everything else flowing around me, right?
Yeah.
That's when we become the field. We become the flame, right? That is us being able to be both all and this individuated sense.
Yeah. So we're back to the journey within. But, I think that is, as I say, a tale as old as time. I mean, you're getting into a lot of ancient, scholars, biblical scholars, or spiritual leaders from all different time periods who always say, I'll use Christianity, for example, the kingdom of God is within you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet we look up, where are you?
We do.
Yeah, and I don't mean that, like, facetiously or disrespectfully, but I mean, we're
Mhm.
taught, like, the kingdom is above and, you
Yeah.
know, hell is below, and we're up and down. Like, I think we have to realize that, no, there's very much within, and I
Mhm.
think there's many who have true understanding of that in all of these ancient teachings.
Mhm.
So
Well, and yeah, and it's interesting, that idea even of heaven and hell, and even in the scriptures and all, when we look at it from the mystical standpoint,
mhm.
it, you know, the idea of heaven is connected to the oneness, whatever that is for us, whether that be God or Allah or
Yes,
universe
of
or
course.
light or love or whatever.
Yeah. Source.
Source. Yeah, exactly. That connection, that's heaven.
Mm,
Disconnection,
mm.
that's hell.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so we can ebb and flow back and forth between the two as
mhm,
often as we let
yeah,
ourselves
yeah,
in so many ways.
mhm,
And,
right,
yeah, you said Christianity with the kingdom of heaven. And I do talk about that in spheres. Buddhism has nirvana and the Hinduism has the samadhi. And it's like this
mhm,
whole energy around, what is it that I,
mhm,
yeah, what is it that I want in my experience? And then how do I allow myself to have that, knowing that being here and choosing to be here comes with its difficulties.
Mm. Yeah. So, well, they give you this theory that, well, we decide before we come here. We're coming here and this is going to be our path. And then you get here and you're like, why would I do that? Like, why am I living this existence?
Mm-hmm.
So somehow is it either that's the plan or do we just go off track because we forget?
Yeah, and maybe it's a little bit of both, but I think maybe part of the forgetting is so that we can have a unique experience. If we
Mhm.
all remembered everything that we are, there would be no unique experience, right?
But in saying that if you're here to, let's say, get it right because you didn't get it right the last time and you're not allowed to remember, it's like, "Well, how do I know that I am even on the right track?" Because that definitely will give you a unique experience. It just
Absolutely, absolutely, but then
doesn't mean you're gonna go where you want to, though.
well, and then the question is, what is getting it right? Right? Like
Yeah.
our minds have come up with so much to keep us in line, to make sure we get it right. But if we are truly here to have an experience,
Mhm.
right? The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it is here so that we can have experience.
Mhm.
And if my higher self in the oneness understands that it's all just experience. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. And it
Mhm.
chose for me to have a very difficult experience in this lifetime. And trust me, my higher self has put me through a few things. So I'm not saying this from a place of I've never been through it.
Yeah.
Then, I have to look at that and go, okay, if that's what it is, then what else has my higher self given me to help me navigate that?
Mm. Mm. Well, then I guess you have to get into your multidimensional self at the same time. That sense of awareness, and we talk about space again, right? The other dimensions around us. So, which tells me that adds to the experience because if we're in this time and place in this dimension, yet we have access to other dimensions,
Mhm.
how does that all fit in?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's the same, in terms of we have access to all of the emotions. We have access to
Yeah.
all of the frequencies. We have access to all of it. But we get caught up sometimes in thinking, again, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. This is the
Mm,
one I want to be in. That's the one I don't want to be in. And the
mhm.
more that we do that, because we know that that's the conditioning in the mind trying to say, this is what's going to make me happy and this is what's not going to make me happy, right?
Yeah.
And so how much of all of that is just the machinations of the mind and how much of that is the reality that we are
Mm.
actually in?
So, if we can shift realities, then why do so many people stay on the hamster wheel of life, living in really, bad emotional or I say emotional, mental, spiritual. Why do we choose to remain in certain states if we can? Because people say, "Oh, just, shift your reality."
Mhm.
What? It's like, it's not an easy thing, but yet some people do it while they sleep and wake up in a totally different life. I mean, one woman actually woke up in a different reality altogether, put a reward out for anybody that could get her back to her reality, to her fiance. For
Mhm.
7 years, she's been doing this.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, and I can only speak from my own experiences with it
I
because,
won't hold you to it, Jennifer. It's
yeah,
okay. It's just a
uh,
curiosity.
but, we have things like shifting, through realities. We have walk-ins that come in late that were not here to begin with, so there's a new kind of energy taking over a life. We have, a lot of these near-death experiences that open us to being in the world in totally new ways. To say, like, why are some more than another or different? I think it's all, again, back to, if we are the universe experiencing itself in an infinite number of ways, then some of those experiences are to shift and be stuck. Some of those experiences are to not be able to shift. Some of
Yeah.
those experiences are going to be, I'm going to jump from timeline to timeline and have some fun with that. Some of those experiences are going to be, you know what? I think I'm done. Does somebody else want to take over for me?
Yeah,
Right?
right. Eh,
Um,
so that is interesting how you put that. Wayne here at
mhm.
4 years old, tell me about the walk-in, so not cool. Honestly, like, he was 4 years old, the story he tells, and at his birthday party, and 4 years old, and then sat there, all of a sudden had a weird feeling, like, literally threw up, and then looked at at his hands and looked at himself and goes, "Oh my god, I'm a child."
Mm.
Really shitty thing to do to a 4-year-old, just saying. So
Yeah.
so what will cause something like this? How at 4, you're just getting started, you
Mhm.
know? So it's just like this realization, is your soul going, "It took you 4 years to realize that you started over?" Or is it, yeah, somebody just kinda bumped them out of the way?
Well, and I my personal experience with walk-ins in this lifetime,
Yeah.
um, I don't know from a personal experience, but from what I've gleaned from my understanding of other lifetime experiences,
Mhm.
um, sometimes the soul that comes in only comes in
Mhm.
for a period of time.
Yes.
And then another may go, "You know what? I don't wanna start from the beginning, so I'm gonna jump in." Right? And
Right.
they'll take over for,
Yes.
but again, we know that that being born cuts us off from the remembering, and so to jump in later in life or even 4 years old as opposed to being
Yeah.
born,
Mhm.
uh, can be a shock, right? Like, "How did I get here? Where was I for the last however long?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so I think that there's, is there a possibility that somebody just comes in and pushes us out of the way?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so. I
What
would.
happens to people in comas?
Mhm.
Other souls step in because, contrary to what people think, we don't lay there even when we sleep at night. We go and do our own thing, and in comas, they're in and out. People who have come out of comas have said, "Oh, no, I was doing all kinds of things." But every now and then, somebody jumps in, and they have no clue who their wife or their kids or anybody is.
Yeah. When you think about, I mean, channeling and especially full trance channeling and things like that, there's
Yeah.
something else there,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
not, I'm not conscious in that moment. It's not, the
Yeah.
consciousness that is Jennifer in that moment, right?
Right.
It's the
Right.
consciousness that is whoever. And so, to Hillbilly, what he was saying about, soul sharing and all,
Mhm.
we this is something that's been really interesting because I've had, people talk about, oh, I remember this past life as this person. And then you meet somebody else and they're like, oh, well, I remember my past life as that person. Well, we know that there's multiple realities. And
Yeah.
so is it that they shared a consciousness that then split to do different experiences? Is it that they were that in two different realities? Like, we know that what we know is very limited
So
in
true.
terms of the greater picture.
So true. So true. So I mean, as we're navigating through all of these different spheres, like the core sphere is the big one, right? Like it seems where you're going through your fear, your anger, your grief. Like we've talked about all of that. And if we can get through that and get into the outer spheres, this is where our consciousness seems to evolve. according
Mhm.
to things that you have written about in here. It's where the ego is stabilized and matured and no longer needs to defend or control. It begins to soften. And, and then we keep going, and we're marked by these vibrational fields. And this is really where I was going with everything is the vibrational fields. Like different vibrations do crazy things to us,
Yeah.
right? Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. And so it's it's interesting. I have had experiences of, we'll use Unity because this is one I remember. So I'm just outside of Ottawa, uh,
Yeah.
big little city coming from, other
Yeah.
big cities. But I remember driving down Bank Street, which is a very busy road, and all of the sudden I had awareness of everything that was around me. All of the people that were walking, driving, in the stores, that were, I had awareness of the life that was there, the bugs, the plants, not many trees, but the weeds that grow through the cracks. Like,
Yeah.
right? And I had to pull over because it was too much in that moment for 3D me to be able to continue to drive down the road.
Oh,
And so we do know that when we enter some of these states, there is a big shift that happens. And then there's an integration that has to happen, right? Because
yeah.
we can, stay in those states. And there are times where, we've heard from different spiritual teachers and things like that, where they've entered that state and they go, okay, I have to kind of come back a little bit if I'm going to function here, or if I want to bring that message back here. And so we can enter these states, but we also know that that integration piece means that we're not bringing all of it back. We're bringing pieces of it back,
Yeah.
right? When
Yeah.
we've had these beautiful experiences and we get to a place where it's like, I don't actually have words for this, for what happened, right? And the moment that we put words to it, it's like, oh, I've just limited it and limited what the experience was.
Yeah.
Um, and so, we think that we need to be in this like expansive vibration all of the time. And as lovely as that is, that's what we came from,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to go back to it. But
Right.
right now, we're here to have the symphony. We're here to have all of the different frequencies playing together. But that means that sometimes we can touch that energy again, right? And bring that back. We can also touch the density and sit in that for a little bit, right? We have the ability to have the range of experience. So, yeah, we want to notice the vibrations. We want to be able to use them. I mean, I use frequency music and things like that all of the time for healing, for grounding, for doing all kinds of work.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that there's a lot of power in that. But are we meant to always be in just that one, high frequency state?
Mm.
As having a human experience, we wouldn't function here.
Yeah, I was going to say with the high frequency state, I would find because you're like hypersensitive, you're everything when you're up here. It's almost as though it would be exhausting to be going through it all the time.
Could you imagine if you were in this life all of the time and there was no separation between you and me, between me and
Mm,
anybody else,
yeah, that would be
right?
difficult.
It would, especially because so much of the world around us is having an individuated experience,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
So,
right.
how do we hold that?
So it kind of gets into that when we think about we are one, collectively speaking. It almost feels like, does it get to a point where it operates as a bit of a hive mind with emotions, you know? And what, if any, are the potential downsides of that?
This is such a fascinating topic.
Yeah,
This is probably a
I
whole
love
other
it.
show.
I love it. I do. I love it.
What comes to mind for me is so in human design, Ra Uru, who channeled the voice for human design, talks about the 2027 prophecy. And he
Okay.
talks about how the body is changing. So just like how we changed from a seven-centered, the seven chakra being to a nine-centered being, we're going to be changing again.
Yeah.
So, and again, depending on the belief system you follow, but there's a lot around 2027 and changes that are coming through different theories as well. So one of the things that has come forward in the teachings there is that a lot of the yeah a lot of the people who've come into the world right now with autism
Mhm.
are made for the new body, the new system, the new way of being, but that they don't have that. They still have the old body. And so if you look at things like the telepathy tapes and
Yes.
that, where these children are having that hive mind reality,
Mm.
they're just not bringing it always into this reality. Some of them are, and some of them aren't, and that's okay depending on what their mission is. But you know that movement towards that, where we're moving from the mental awareness to the emotional awareness center. Um, Yes, absolutely. It allows for a shift from the mind always trying to figure everything out to that very communal way of being,
Mm.
which does then move us more into that hive mentality, um, with while also being individual,
Yeah.
right? Because the consciousness is connected on a completely different level.
Oh, it's incredible, having worked spiritually with people with, for example, Down syndrome or autism, because I have so many people in my life who have children who are autistic, and when I observe them, they are absolutely incredible, and they're
Mhm.
unbelievable seers, like, even beyond the telepathy thing.
Yeah.
I remember having somebody visit one time, and her daughter just sat there because I was, working with another family who had a negative attachment. And she just looks around, kind of looks around at me and looks to her mother and says, "Mommy," she goes, "Who's that?" Like, "What's that growly thing over there?" And she's just mom's like, and I'm just like, "It's okay. It's okay. It's just me." Pop that out, but it's interesting because it's just so pure, and their minds are just somewhere on a vast,
Yeah.
vast scale. Nothing. They're not limited like so many of us are here.
Mhm. Absolutely. Because and this is the thing, we talk about, like, there's things like, ABA and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
that try to condition them into our world, right? But it's really hard
You can't do
because they're no, and they're in a place where, we need to learn how to be like that on so many levels, that connectedness, that oneness that they're able to tap into. If we
Mhm,
can meet them there,
mhm,
right? That's going to be a beautiful kind of evolution for
mhm,
us
mhm,
as humans. I remember working with the population at one point, and I would get called in when the kids were having, their moments,
mhm.
and nothing that, people were trying to do was helping, and I would just go sit, and they would come and sit, right? Because we would meet somewhere else,
Yes.
talk, and then right? Bring that back
Yeah.
into and integrate. But it wasn't about changing or making them be something that they're not. It
Mhm.
was, I'm going to meet you where you're at, right?
Mhm.
And be
Yes.
able to do that.
Do you feel that's why so many of these, people, especially with autism, because I'm more familiar with it, having people in my life who are autistic, but they're very artistic. You know, they love anything that is, let's say, nature-based. They love to paint, or they love photography, or they love to swim, or it's something, that's very, very, I guess, connected to the earth more than to technology, for example.
Yeah. It's tough because technology as a whole, I think it's wonderful. It's allowed us to connect with everybody that's
Mm,
here. It does beautiful things for us in that way.
mhm,
It really has, in a lot of ways, taken us away from the connectedness with the earth, with community, all of that. And so, I think we've learned to evolve with it
mm,
and adapt. And, to some degree, working with these kids, some of them very much are, as we say, addicted to technology,
yes.
right? Uh, but is that because, that
Mhm,
that's what they're actually interested in, or is that because that's what the conditioned state has led
yeah,
them to?
absolutely, absolutely. It gets technical on that level, but I do believe that they're already connected to consciousness in the way that many of us are just trying to get to, on that level. Many of them are already there,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
right?
and this is
So
where noticing what gets in the way of that connection and being
mhm,
really honest with ourselves about what is it I'm allowing to get in the way of that.
mm, mm. Yeah, it's very difficult, because we live in a world where we're all very diverse.
Mhm,
And I think it's just a matter of having that understanding. I know I do all kinds of energy work on many different levels. My favorite is always planetary, of course, and the collective consciousness. I
mm,
think I
mhm,
think it's so important to feed it, and to feed it positively. And you start seeing the after effects of that. And when you're working on a global scale, it is interesting how fast one word or one emotion or one anything travels, and you start noticing popping up everywhere, and you're like, "And that's just me," or "That's just a group I worked with to put this whole thing in place." Can you imagine if everybody took one even positive thing
mhm,
and put it out there? I feel that if the whole collective consciousness could start to rise to that different vibe,
mhm.
maybe it would be easier for us as individuals on an individual journey to tap into it a little easier. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. It's so interesting, right? It was we've talked about it, and I know I talk about it in the book about that idea of unity consciousness. Um, we have collective consciousness, which is
Yeah.
not unity consciousness, but
Yeah.
it keeps us one.
Yes.
And collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness is kind of the way I tend to look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but
Yes.
the reality is that collective consciousness can move us in either direction.
Mm.
And, when we're feeling that, because I think that also plays into the density, right? Right now, the collective, there's a lot of density in the collective.
Oh, yeah,
And
there is.
so, right? And so I realize, okay, I've got my own experience with it, but also maybe part of what I'm feeling is that tapping in to the collective density. Now I can let myself stay in that and experience that, or I can go to what you're saying. I want to pour love into that. So I'm going to intentionally set the time and go, okay. I'm going to sit and I'm going to, we were talking about the positive triggers, right? The glitters, as they're often called, where I'm
Yeah.
going to bring love into my experience. I am going to reflect on moments where I felt deep love, whether it was to me or for me or both, where I've been able to give deep love, where I've been able to maybe experience love. From a stranger, or feeling love towards somebody that I don't know, right? And then expand that
Mm,
more until it's like, okay, this is overflowing now
mm,
from within. I'm going to send that out. Right.
yes.
And it's so
Yeah.
important to do that work, to have it overflow, because otherwise that's where we're giving from that empty bucket, right? We want it to overflow and experience it and then send that out.
Mm,
But in order to do that, we have to work with our stuff.
yeah. It's really, I think, a matter of being mindful. I think if we can be mindful on a collective level, it's easier for us to allow ourselves to go deeper within. I was last night listening to this, it's a Queen song, but it was done with Brian May and, Andreas Botticelli, and that frequency, like that song, which I've heard thousands of times because it's one of my favorites, hit in a way that I could feel it completely tighten me up and pull in a way that most it's just not happened that way,
Mhm.
it's not in a really long time, but I made a point of pushing that outward. First off, I shared it for people who might be interested, but right in that moment, I just pushed that out through my energy out into that collective because it felt so incredible to me. And
Mhm.
I'm hypersensitive to energies, and I felt so incredible. I'm like, everybody needs to feel this amazing right now. And you're all welcome. You're all welcome. So, you know,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, but I thank you. I think it's if we can be mindful, even if we're feeling, not making the effort of, okay, what thought am I going to put out there today? But if something really amazing or something happens that makes you feel really good, share it. Just share it,
Absolutely.
you know, even in that moment. So where can everybody find your book? I mean, I've got the link, in the show description, but you know, s-
Yeah. It's on Amazon, so you can find it there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then through my website, it'll link you to Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, myholisticselfcounseling.com or just myholisticself.com works.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and so the books are on there.
Okay. And do you have anything coming up? I mean, I know you have shows of your own, so plug away.
Yeah, so every Monday, I co-host Twillo Talk with Tanis, and we are live at 5 Eastern every Monday, and it's just authentic spiritual conversation. And so we talk about a little bit of the weather report, if you will. So Tanis talks about the Schumann, which I know was a conversation early on about how intense that has been lately. So we talk about that. We talk about the solar flares, which then leads into the neutrinos that are coming through. So I talk about the transits and the energy that is going to be the most impactful for that week. And then we kind of go into an open conversation. If we have a guest, we talk about what they're doing. If it's just us, the conversation can go just about anywhere in terms of spiritual topics.
Mm,
And so, yeah,
mhm.
it's
I love
lovely
that.
to have community as you have here, joining the conversation and lighting up the board
Thank
because it's
you.
always wonderful.
always blessed with an incredible chat community, and I feel as interactive as they are, they're smart as a whip. Everybody really contributes amazing things, but like myself, it's amazing how like-minded people find one another because I
Mm.
like to learn from the people who come on here and talk about, your case in your books or in their research. I'm a student and I want to keep learning, you know. Of all the years of doing what I've done, it's like, oh, you're an expert. No, no, no. I'm a student. I will always be a student because the universe is this wondrous place of knowledge. And the chances that I'm going to learn it all to make me said expert is probably slim to literally nothing. So they are much like me. And in doing so, they're very, very interactive. Um, so thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. You guys are really um, screen shooting every episode. Oh, good. Thank you. That's always appreciated. Now, guys, for tomorrow night on the Outer Realm, Jason Tavares joins me, and he's going to be, like I say, he's no stranger to high strangeness. And I mean, he's got some very and very interesting stories. So he's going to be joining us and talking about that a little bit. And Thursday night, new time, 8 p.m. My friend Eric Werner, who's the co-owner, CEO of Dark Moon Press, has authored over 50 books. God, he's like Preston Dennett. What? There's another like 75 books. I just, it's mind blowing to me. But anyway, he's going to be talking about one of his books called The Vampire Cult Killer, the real story of Rod Farrell. And the book takes a really deep dive into this case. And this is out of the norm for something I usually do, as far as getting into true crime stuff. But vampire killer, how could I not? I just had to go there. And yes, so this is the lighthearted show of the week, and it's been really nice to spend it with you and to just to start the week off on a really positive note and a positive vibration. And I thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm always honored.
Oh, thank you. We'll definitely have to do it again because it's just, I just love your vibration. It's nice. I know Kira's saying, "Oh, Michelle just looks so happy today." Yeah, it's love and light, everybody, love and light. This is how I'm feeling. Anyway, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Thank you to United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone here, and good night to everyone on the other side of the world. Bye.